We got Will versus Jacob, Mono Red Prowess, Demir mid range, and it looks like we're going to have Will Cougar on the left of our screen starting the game off with a Spyglass Seren. That's going to come in, make a map token. Jacob mounting on the other side, and we're applying pressure straight away. Here it comes, Hired Claw. I love this card.
Yeah, Hired Claw is really nice. It gives you some, ways to sort of deal damage. It's kind of hard to block, especially early on. Just the threat of being able to put a counter on it makes it, especially on turn 2, very hard to block. And it kind of puts your opponent in this in the squeeze. As far as this matchup is concerned, I think this is a matchup that typically favors the Dimir side of things. The combination of, cheap removal spells. Preacher of the Schism is a really hard card for the red decks to attack past. 4 toughness, look at stuff like Lightning Strike and Burst Lightning. That can't touch the Preacher of the Schism. And and Will has a lot of defensive tools like this Flood Pit Drowner as well. Going to buy him a little bit of time, making sure that, Jacob can't amass a bunch of early damage.
I was going to talk about the High Claw. Really good in multiples as well. And
Oh,
as we
yeah.
see there, second one was going to come down. So Will's decided doesn't want to take a bunch of damage here, but is going to get lose one of the creatures there. We're going to do a Burst Lightning. Love to see that card back in standard now as well. That's going to deal with the Drowner on the other side as we pass it back to Will.
Yeah, Jacob deciding to Burst Lightning the Flood Pits Drowner main phase, just in case Will had any, inclination of using that Flood Pits Drowner to shuffle away the Hired Claw. Most of the time Will's probably just gonna do something else this turn as we see a Deep Cavern back come down. And this one's kind of awkward, right? Where it's like usually you want to take a removal spell, but because the red deck has, 4 Burst Lightning and 4 Lightning Strike, just going to take a look at Jacob's deck list. Yeah, we're on no Lightning Strike. So 4 Burst Lightning, 4 Witch Stalker Frenzy in the main deck, as well as 2 Invasion of Tarkir. So still has enough ways to kill the bat. Now, in Will's spot, if you're looking at this hand, typically with Deep Cavern Bat, you want to take the piece of interaction because if you take something else, they can just kill the bat, get back to something else. Now that you've taken the piece of removal, Jacob theoretically can't kill the bat, and now you with the map token, that's a 2/2 lifelinker. That's gonna, be able to gain Will a little bit of life back.
Yeah, look at that. I was going to say, how do you decide on that? If you're not taking the removal spell, do you take like a tempo orientated play to try and mess up the next turn? Like, how would you kind of do it? Or is it just depending on what Will's got in his hand?
So a lot of the times, like say for example, Jacob just had 2 burst lightnings in that instance, right? So even if you take a burst lightning, he still has the burst lightning to kill the bat. You would want to take whatever the highest impact play Jacob had next turn. So if Jacob had a third land and a Screaming Nemesis, you take the Nemesis. So Jacob plays land 3, has to maybe deploy the burst lightning to kill the bat, and then can't deploy the Screaming Nemesis that turn.
I think that was a Manifold Mouse that came down the alternate art there. A lot of those floating around currently, as we spoke about here in standard.
Ooh.
Over on the other side, though, Will is going to play probably one of the better cards in the deck, Enduring Curiosity. So every time a creature deals combat damage to a player, you get to draw a card. And because both of those creatures have got flying, no blocking happening, going to be drawing 2 more cards, as well as, of course, gaining 2 more life and making that life total nice and cushy at 19.
Yeah, the 2/2 bat representing sort of essentially bricking 2 power on Jacob's side, and because Jacob missed a land drop last turn, couldn't deploy either the Tursa. I believe we still have the Nemesis too. And yeah, so I think the last card in hand for Jacob is Nemesis. So missing a land drop last turn, not being able to deploy one of the 3 drops that had haste, maybe that's a little bit different. And even here, for example, we are one of these creatures can just get eaten up by the Curiosity. Yeah, Will's
Why would
just
we
going to
not
go
be
ahead and
turning the Trasa sideways? Is that how I say it? Trasa?
Tursa.
Trissa sideways?
Yeah, I'm not really sure. I feel like if you're going to attack with the 3 1-power creatures and have one of them eaten up by the Curiosity, you can get the Tursa in there too. Because if Will blocks with the Tursa, then I think you're pretty happy with that because you're trading for the Curiosity and you're not losing another thing. But maybe Jacob is playing more defensively where he feels like he's too far behind on board and has to just block the Curiosity with the Tursa.
It's interesting. I feel like I would have gone like maybe Screaming Nemesis first because obviously I didn't get to use the ability of being able to discard my hand, draw extra cards there. I feel like if I want to get a creature down that turn, Screaming Nemesis is perfect. You're definitely not going to block because if you do, you're going to take 4. Plus, you're going to take the no life gaining clause, which is, by the way, huge in matchups, especially in standard.
Yeah, looks like Jacob lining up potential no blocks here. So Thinking about it at least.
Well, if you're not attacking and you're not
Yeah,
blocking, what are you doing?
that was a little strange because I mean, if you attacked last turn, I think Will is still gonna block one of your one power creatures. And
Oof.
oh my goodness.
How about a second one? Double triggers now going to go on the stack. Will's going to have a grip for the cards by the end of this. And the bad thing is, it doesn't even go to the bin. It just comes back as an enchantment, which is going to be
Mhm.
pretty hard for this mono red deck to get off the board because they can't do it. It's that simple.
Yeah, Will drawing 4 cards this turn. Already, like I said, has the 2/2 lifelink bat, has enough other stuff where like every one of those spyglass sirens is going to represent another 2 cards in combat. At 17 life against 2 higher claws and 3 lands, it seems nearly impossible for Jacob to get out of this.
Can you remind me which deck's the aggro deck again?
Apparently not mono red last time I checked.
Not happening, not right now either. This
If you
is
think about Will, I
gone.
think Will actually played more one drops this game than Jacob did.
One, two. Yeah.
Right? Because we
Yeah.
discarded the Swiss Spear. Will played 3 Sirens. Jacob played 2 Hired Claws. So, scoreboard.
Yeah, Will is definitely in the driver's seat here. Pretty comfy. Nice high life total. Good board. Big grip of cards. Jacob on the other side is going to play the 4th, a land drop, mix, match, and basics. Oh.
And you could tell
Oh.
that was done on purpose too, right? You know?
I know. Just for me. Like that's what it is. Just for me.
Mm.
Will, though, he's got me. Us Wills, we stick together. We have matching basics. Can't remember. They're not
I
the.
like Will's basics. Those
Are
are
they
I
the
think those are
OG
the
ones?
OGs. Yeah,
Yeah,
the
I was about to say, I
OGs.
think they're the OGs. That would make sense because Will is an OG. Will's been playing for a long, long time at high level as well. One of the best players in the room. And of course, trying to get those leaderboard points, trying to get to that end of year championships, trying to battle for $30,000, trying to get that Pro Tour invite.
What's your go-to basic land?
Depends what deck. How many of the basic land do I have to play? Depends on which one I play.
We'll say 10.
As a Saga.
Okay, respect that.
That's the set I started with. So that's anything over 10 is as a Saga. Anything less than that is the Secret Lair Pixel basics.
I got some nice Portal basics that I've been like. I can't remember if it was Portal 1 or Portal 2, but the Portal basics are really nice.
It's the easiest way for Wizards to get money out of me. You could play a really rubbish set, but then have really great basics. I'm in. Like it's literally, I hate it. I hate that I've got that about myself, but it is what it is. Will's going to fire off, go for the throat here, get the Scream Nemesis off the board, then turn everything sideways. This is 4 creatures. Only one's able to be blocked because 3 of them have got flying. So no matter what, we're drawing 6 extra cards this turn.
Yeah, it's like, what is Jacob supposed to do? Jump block here, let Will gain 2, draw 6. Yeah, I mean, with no cards, I don't even know what you could possibly draw here. Maybe Bonfire of the Damned could do it.
Is there a line where like removal spell on the bat to get back the frenzy to get rid of because then we really get 1/1s attacking us, but the real damage has happened and we're seeing it right now. 6
He's drawing 8 cards.
8 cards. There was no blocks. Oh my! Will's so happy. He doesn't look happy, Lijo, but I promise you, he is happy right now.
He has what, like 15 cards in his hand? Look at Will. He's just like, I don't know what to do.
This isn't meant to happen. He says, like, this is not what normally goes on. Portal basics,
I think honestly, at this point, Will is more likely to lose to decking than Jacob is to deal lethal damage.
Is it a may or is it a must?
No, it's not a may. So
okay, so we've got an out. Jacob, we've got this. All right, we just got to slam a ensnaring bridge, and we're golden.
Well, bridge wouldn't even matter, right? Because then you wouldn't draw cards off curiosity.
Oh, that is all good. Okay, what could we?
I'm telling you, Bonfire of the Damned would be the out, but that's not a bonfire.
Go for the old Brian Kibler sort of line. Tap top, flip it, boom. Just watch the disappointment happen. But now Will's going to take that game down quite comfortably, I would say. We're starting to get the deck lists up and working there, so I think we can look at Will's deck list to start off. So maybe people want to pick this up at home because that did look very impressive. Here's the full 75. That's the sideboard. What do you think Will wants to bring in to show up this game number 2 and take himself to a nice 2-0 start in today's tournament?
Yeah, so Will's got some interesting tools here for the mono red matchup. Anoint with Affliction, very good against stuff like Heartfire Hero. It's a way to exile it without triggering the Die's ability. Past that, you look towards Gix's command, where that can clean up a bunch of a wider battlefield that has a bunch of mice on it. Shieldred the Apocalypse is typically a card that is more difficult for the red decks to interact with. Although I will say, for Jacob's side of things, maybe Will doesn't know this, but we know he has 4 copies of Witch Doctor Frenzy, so the Shieldreds aren't quite as good as they would normally be. But the Anoint and the Gix's command for sure. And honestly, I think this matchup is good enough for Will that he doesn't have to do a ton here.
So let's go over then to Jacob. Let's have a little look at what they're going to have. We haven't got the graphic for it, so I'm going to have to call it out. We've got Case of the Crimson Pulse. We've got Ghost Vacuums. We've got Barrages. We've got Mega Bane. Is it Mega Bane Lizard?
Mage Bane Lizard.
Mage Bane Lizard. Scorching Shot. The Lynx and some Torch the Towers. Is anything taking your fancy amongst these 15 cards?
I mean, there's some interesting ones. If Jacob is expecting the game to go a little bit longer, you could maybe grab something like Case of the Crimson Pulse, because once you are able to, if the blue block deck is. It's interesting because Will's draw was kind of aggressive that game, so I'm not even sure that Jacob would have had time for the Case of the Crimson Pulse. But if the games are a little bit more about Will interacting with the battlefield, hey, there's Jacob's deck list.
There we
If the
go.
games are more about interacting on the battlefield than the case, if the game slows down, that could be pretty good. Torch the Tower is phenomenal because that is a 1 mana way to, assuming you have something to bargain, a 1 mana way to get Enduring Curiosity off the battlefield. Now, I guess now mentioning that, there's actually not a ton of ways to bargain in the mono red deck. I guess you could have an Offspring Manifold Mouse or a Monstrous Rage roll token, but other than that, not really a lot here. So, second guessing, maybe it's actually a matchup where you don't want Torch, but they at least still killed Deep Cavern Bat, so they're probably fine.
Let's have a little look. Then let's go down to the game. They're finishing sideboarding. So yeah, it looks like we're just coming to the end of shuffling up. Will 1 game up here with the domain mid-range, but is going to be on the draw now, which means mono red Paris on the play. That's where it's scary. That's where it can really get in underneath this powerful deck. Will's going to have some early interaction to stall this game out. Looking at their openers. Oh, I thought Jacob was going to be throwing it back then. I think we got to keep on both sides. I think we're off to the races. They're looking for a thumbs up. They've got it, and we're going. No 1-drop here for Jacob.
Yeah, last game we had the turn 1 Hired Claw. It's interesting, keeping 7 without a 1-drop maybe signifies Jacob has maybe a slightly more of a slower hand, maybe, a bunch of 2-drops like Challengers, Manifold Mouses, and potentially some 3s like, Screaming Nemesis, the cases if those come in, and the Tursus as well.
There's a cut down on the Manifold Mouse. No Offspring's going to happen with it. Nice clean answer there and cut down for Will. Going to pass the turn back again. No 2-drops, no Cavern Bats. Jacob with his 3rd land. Now this is one of the cool lands, and this one can work really well because it synergizes being all creature types. It's basically a big Mutavault at the end of the day, if you think of it like that, ladies and gentlemen. It just costs 4 mana to activate. We're going to use a challenger, to come down, but it's going to get stun counters added to it, courtesy of the Drowner. So we always had that nice turn 1 interaction, turn 2 interaction.
Yeah, the Soulstone is also really nice when you pair it with stuff like with Manifold Mouse, right? Because Manifold Mouse can give any mouse double strike or trample, and the Soulstone is considered a mouse for the Manifold Mouse. So maybe that's more of a bit of a later game play. But yeah, this is kind of the problem with the slower start here for Jacob. Didn't have a 1-drop, couldn't get on the battlefield and kind of get under that Flood Pits Drowner. And now this curve of just Flood Pits your challenger
Ooh.
into Slam the Preacher is so brutal, and no play here for Jacob. This is going to be a tough game for Jacob to come back from.
This is almost like the perfect start for Will. Interaction on 1, interaction on 2. My best kind of threat / blocker on 3. The fact that he's even turning it sideways here and going to get an extra card deeper, do some life to him. All his lands came into play, not doing any damage to him. And then he's going to play the Q. My word, Will, calm down. Calm down, sir.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned last game, you brought up this question of who's the aggro deck.
Yeah.
And the more that I think about it, I mean, given the way these games have played out, obviously Jacob's hand this game was certainly, a little bit, probably a little bit more reactive and a little bit slower. So Will had the time to develop those threats. But even the game where Jacob had double one drop, Will was still able to put a good amount of pressure on Jacob. So, maybe this Demir deck has the ability to be more aggressive than we initially thought.
Hard Claw coming in. Not going to
Yeah,
do.
notably, the Soulstone Sanctuary is not just a mouse; it's also a lizard, so that will trigger the
Yeah.
Hired Claw.
Good old Mutavault doing its thing. But this one's a nice
Yes,
3/3 with Vigilance as well.
there's some cool synergies with the Soulstone in this deck.
What was thinking about blocking?
Yeah, and I mean, if you're in Will's spot, right, your opponent did nothing on turn one. They played a 2-drop. They did basically nothing on turn three. So you're in a spot where what could my opponent have? They didn't have a Witchstalker Frenzy for my Preacher because it got to attack freely last turn. So basically, Will can assume that Jacob has at least one, if not multiple Monstrous Rages in hand. So it's, Will's trying to figure out how does this combat look if my opponent has one? What happens if they have two? So on and so forth.
Yeah, he's thinking because it's basically a free block here because it's going to come back anyway. But with the Monstrous Rage, will it still be able to take this out? You get one prowess trigger, it gets the roll counter
Ooh,
as well, but it hits
that's pretty
another
good.
Monstrous Rage. That's a nice one.
That is pretty good. So now we can cast that, and that'll actually get the challenger around the
Oh, burst
um
lightning, so that's going to give it another prowess. So yeah, that means that the mouse is going to stick around.
okay, math time. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5,
3
6,
damage,
7,
right?
8. 8 minus 3 is 5. 5 plus 6. I believe Will should be taking 11 this turn, going to 6. We'll see if I'm
3,
right.
4, 5.
Yeah, look at I still got it. I still got it.
Do you do this stuff for a living? You should. If you don't, you should, my friend.
Math is usually not my strong suit, so,
All right. Well, can Will rebuild at 6 life now? Jacob was able to find a line to get through. Got a little, the top of his deck was very nice to him, giving that extra monstrous rage, and we know how good that card can be in these mono red decks, and all especially with the prowess ones floating around. Now Will's got to kind of have the answers to this. Remember, had that great turn. First 4 turns, 1 drop spell, 2 drop spell, 3 drop spell, 4 drop spell. Yet Jacob's still able to get the life total down to 6 and got 1 card in hand.
Yeah, I mean, Will tapped out for the Enduring Curiosity last turn. Likely didn't have a good piece of interaction there because you would imagine if there was a removal spell, maybe he would have held that up last turn.
Mm-hmm.
So didn't have the removal spell. I did spot an Anoint with Affliction in Will's hand, so likely drew that off of the Curiosity last turn. And here we're gonna pick up a blocker and
I
another
think he's
card.
got a
Pick up
Scavenger
Dark
Regent.
Slick. Yeah, well, the awkward part about Scavenger Region, we mentioned Soulstone Sanctuary is a mouse and a lizard. Guess what? It's also a dragon.
Oh my god, I didn't
So
even
it doesn't
think
even
about
die
it.
to the Scavenger Region.
Oh, I would so fall for. I'd cast it, and my opponent would look at me and say that. I'd be like, I'm an idiot.
Yeah.
I'm an idiot. That is okay. Well, we got the ability to tap it down. Wonder if there's any mana floated in response. Definitely not in this case. So we just got the little lonely hide claw. Can he get there? Attacking will at least do 1 damage to Will's face, dropping down to 5. If we've got anything else like a monstrous rage, that would be great to be able to go across the line. It can of course also pay the 2 mana if needs be to put a +1/+1 counter on it, but only once damage has happened, and we can only do that once a turn.
Yeah, so I mean, it does have a decent attack with the Hired Claw. Will can single block, but if the single block happens with Flood Pits, Jacob can just put a counter on it. And if Will double blocks, Jacob puts a counter, and then it still, trades both. Will's probably okay with trading both because the Vampire token he basically got for free anyways. So presumably, yeah. I mean, I guess the other option is you could just single block and keep the Drowner in play to maybe shuffle away the Soulstone next turn. But yeah, you kind of want to kill the Hired Claw here. Now, the question is, do you think that Jacob has a third rage? I mean, I don't think you can really play around a third rage here, but
No, he's got. I feel like we're going to have something. At least Jacob's. It's got 2 cards. It's nothing with haste. At least I would assume it's nothing with haste. So we were able to go to block. So it might not be a Witch's Frenzy or something like that, or maybe we're trying to get the max value. We are going to pay 2 mana to give it a +1/+1 counter, and we're just going to take the trade. Okay, so
Yeah,
Will's going to end up at 5 at the end of this.
yeah, and honestly, if you're Will, I think you're pretty happy with that trade.
Or maybe we've just got 2 lands in hand as we play that the 5th mountain for the turn.
And Will untapping with a full grip of cards. Has the Restless Reef as well. That can maybe get animated. I saw a Shieldred in Will's hand. Yeah, we're going with that.
Oh no. That's the sound I'd make if I was in Jacob's spot right now. But
And that's going to
okay,
be 2 more life with the Shieldred draw.
yes, we lose 1 when we attack. We get to lose 1, draw a card. Because we draw a card, we get to gain another 2. Then we get to draw again, and then we follow it up with another creature here. Spyglass is going to come down, generate that map token.
I love this, putting the map on Shieldred, because if you hit the spell, now the Shieldred has 6 toughness and can't even be Witchstalker Frenzied.
Yeah, I don't see a way out of this for Jacob. He had that run, great turn, was able to turn. Will had the amazing start. Jacob was able to fight back into it, but maybe just 1 too many lands have been drawn off the top. If you think about it, he's actually got 6 lands in play currently. Not where you want to be if you're a mono red deck.
Asking a judge call. All right, let's think about this. Looking at Jacob's deck list, what do you think we could be asking a judge about?
I think it's something to do with was it a missed trigger maybe on the
Oh, a
Shieldred?
Shelly trigger. Okay, is the stack empty?
Maybe they're asking a judge, does this matter? It doesn't look good for me right now.
I mean, I thought I saw Will point to the Shelly trigger, but I could be wrong.
This is why we have judges, right? Like if there's something that you think didn't work in the right way, or something was missed, or you didn't, a card's in Phyrexian and you can't read it, these sort of things. This is why we have judges. And I think it's very for newer players. People don't like making a bit of a fuss. They're there for us. They're there to make sure the game state is always going to be fair and how it should be. So never be scared to call a judge. And hats off to all our judges as well, because without them, we cannot put any of these events on, not only in person, but also for you beautiful people at home to have a little look at as well. And hopefully you are enjoying it today, because we are going to bring you 7 rounds of Swiss standard action before we cut to that top 8 later. So that's 10 rounds of more Magic action live today here in Chicagoland.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I don't really think the 2 damage from Shieldred matters. I think whether he's at 8 or 10, the game's over either way.
Yeah.
But we're tapping 4 mana, maybe Manifold Mouse for some chump blocks. Oh,
Ooh.
okay.
1, 2, 3, 4. So that's 4
Well, hang on
damage
a
going up
second.
to Will.
Will goes to 4, and
Will
now
goes to
can't gain
4.
life. But aren't you just dead on board to the Restless Reef?
1, 2, 3, 4.
You chump block the Shelly and
Yeah.
you take 8.
Unless that last card is
Could
a
be a Burst Lightning.
frenzy.
Well, Burst Lightning wouldn't even be enough. Yeah, it would have to be a Frenzy, right? So you chump block the Shieldred, Frenzy the Reef, and then you end up taking 4, going to 3.
Yeah, there's nothing that's free down. I'm trying to think, like, could Jacob in response do 3 to the dome?
No, it'd have to be a Frenzy.
All right, well, everything's going to get turned side domes. We're going to find out one way or another. It's going to be a frenzy or a handshake. Does Jacob have it?
You know what? The Frenzy's not even good enough.
Why is
because what happens is so say you go chump block the Shieldred, Frenzy the Restless Reef, the Sunspine Lynx is not in play when the Enduring Curiosity triggers happen, so he'll still gain 6 off of the draws, even if there was a Frenzy.
Oh yeah, that's pretty. That's not good. Don't recommend. So this is attack for 1, 2, 3, 7, 8, and that's if we block the Shieldred itself. So looking at that card, I think it's just a land in hand. Doesn't look happy.
Unless we have life totals wrong, but
no, it's a man. There's the handshake. Will Cougar taking this down. It's going to be 2-0 in today's tournament. Wouldn't want to start it any other way. He needs those points. He wants to get to that season championship end of the year. I'm going to wait for production. So we're going to kind of come back to the booth while we kind of set up that backup feature match. Hopefully it's still going for you all at home. Yeah, I mean, until we've got it, let's just go straight down to it. As much as everyone wants to see this new beard that Will Hall's rocking, I think more importantly, they want to see some more Magic the Gathering. So let's get down and see which 2 decks we've got in the backup feature match, because I think we picked something pretty spicy. What have we got here? This is the Oculus deck, Jeskai Oculus
Yep,
going
we
up
have a chess
against.
guy,
Oh, it's a mirror.
Oculus, a mirror match from Theo Jung against Chris Dexter. Theo, one of the the going back to the champs last year, everybody picked Theo as the favorite to win, and every single time he's in one of our events, he is always one of the favorites in the room. And Theo playing the Just Guy Oculus deck. This mirror match is kind of interesting. I mean, as mirror matches typically go, there is a lot of play draw disparity here, especially with the Oculus deck that's trying to establish a very, very quick Oculus, discarded on turn 2, reanimated on turn 3. And looking at deck lists, there's actually not a ton of instant speed interaction when your opponent goes for an Oculus. There is a good amount of sorcery speed stuff. There's a Sheltered by Ghosts. I guess that's really the only one. And then one into the Flood Moss. So this matchup, I think, is just going to, especially game one, going to come down to, who can get the first Oculus.
I was just about to say that looking at this, it doesn't mean to be any sort of like big deal breaker cards. It is whoever can get Oculus down is going to be a huge favorite moving forward. Do we even have great ways of getting one off the board once they resolve? I'm having a look. It's like one copy of Floodmore, Shelter the Goat by the Ghost is floating around in one of these lists.
Yeah, you got 2 copies in Theo's deck, and then Chris has one Sheltered. Same thing, one Sheltered, one Flood Moss. So both players having, and these lists are pretty similar. I think there might be more. Looks like Theo has 2 Dragon Hunt, where Chris has 1 Dragon Hunt, 1 Winter Night Stories, and I think other than that, everything else might be the same.
So why would players be bringing this deck in like let's say a Jeskai heavy meta that we've currently got in standard? Does this have a good matchup?
I think that the prowess matchup is close. I think there is definitely some like the Just Guy Oculus deck can have starts like this where it just makes huge creatures, specifically Marauding Mako, as you're seeing this game, is just so good in this deck when combined with Steam Core Scholar and Tersa Light Shatter. You have a lot of ways to discard. So the Oculus deck can almost go under the prowess deck a little bit when you have the Mako draws. And then specifically with Oculus, the prowess deck doesn't maybe have as many ways to answer Oculus in the battlefield. So that can be a way to kind of take over a game as well.
Theo has achieved step 1 of that dream, getting the Oculus into the graveyard here. Follow up on the other side. Okay, I was looking at this and I was thinking maybe this is going to be a way for us to kind of break the stalemate. Playing the profits here, so obviously every time we draw cards, we can get +1/+1 counters on things. If my Oculus is bigger than my opponent's Oculus, maybe I can start turning things sideways a little bit more and potentially closing this game out as Chris is able to get his own Oculus into the bin.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, the way this game is playing out, the Oculus is the Oculi,
Yeah, I'll take that.
they may not even matter because Theo has, the 2 Moronic Makos and the Steam Core Scholar. This turn, if Theo can maybe have, like, say, a Tersa or another copy of Steam Core Scholar, that's going to make the Makos 5/5s that can just attack past that Steam Core Scholar on Chris's side of things. But yeah, that's why this Oculus deck is so powerful. You have those draws that kind of feel like modern power level draws where you're reanimating your Oculus for a single mana, but then you also have draws like this that involve Mako and Scholar and Profs, and you can really make a very, very large battlefield even in games where you don't go for the Oculus.
Oculus is one of my, I think, favorite creatures. Been printed in a long time. I really enjoy it. I like seeing it, and how it sees play now. Playing standard, it sees play in modern. I really like. I was actually brewing with it a little bit in Legacy. I was having that, Unearth, Reanimate, Entomb. Oculus was it was more of a lower to the ground type tempo deck. But talking about tempo here, Theo's going for the throat. Keep turning all these sideways. Now got a pair of 5/5s out on the ground here.
It's an attack for 10. One of them is going to get chump blocked, which makes sense. You don't want to take 10 this turn. And
Scholar's got Vigilance as well. I think that's getting in there. 12 coming across.
No, I don't think the Scholar got in there because the Chris's Scholar is a 4/4, so I think we could just profitably block that.
I'm an idiot.
It's all good. It happens. That's the best.
That's it. Just one word. Okay, Oculus is now on the board here for Chris. That's the first one we've seen. Now he's going to push a little bit here. Oculus.
Oh, I love this. Oh, this is such a good play. Well, actually, no, it doesn't because the Oculus
Why?
still can't attack. But the fear of missing out, I was thinking the Oculus could attack this turn, but it doesn't have haste. The fear of missing out doesn't have to untap a creature that's attacking. You can untap anything. And why this is good is it now gives Chris a better blocker on Theo's next combat phase. So if Theo goes like say Tursa or something like a Profs, then to put counters on the Scholar, then the Oculus can sort of check Theo's big Scholar.
Here comes Torch the Tower. It's going to go into exile, remember? We're going to go return the favor with our own Torch the Tower. So kind of trading resources back and back. But Theo, these Michael are just getting out of control at this point. We're just doing our game plan, but every time we're doing it, these happen to get +1/+1 counters, and they're already 5/5s.
I believe. Okay, I was gonna say Tursa. No, Tursa's not quite lethal. If Theo can Tursa and draw a removal spell for the manifest, I believe that's enough. Because we can go Tursa, discard, trigger the Makos, kill the manifest. The Oculus can only block one of the Makos.
I think I agree. And it also depends on what Chris is going to have in hand. But yeah, looking for that one way to discard, one way to kill one of these creatures. There's the Tressa. So they're both going to grow. Now up to 6/6s. His eyes lit up a little bit there. Did you find what he needed?
Kind of needs a torch here. Torch or a Flood Maw.
How many torches are these decks playing? 4 copies in
4.
both decks, plus 1 Flood Maw. We've had a double torch over in Chris's side, just the one on Theo's. Maybe it's not that.
This was a very, very good showcase of just how good these Makos are. Theo had one on turn 1, one on turn 2, and then was able to just kind of curve that into the the Steam Core Scholar, curve that into the just a bunch of card draw, and now they're just these are 1 mana 6/6s.
And it's weirdly, it's not out of the realm that Chris can also just win from this spot, right? Being able to get double 2 attacks in if we can get rid of a blocker and be able to draw multiple cards. Or is it end of turn we put the counters on?
I guess he could have something like the one Sheltered by Ghosts. So you can go Sheltered by Ghosts on the fear of missing out, kill the Tursa. You get a combat from the Profs. That would be another counter. But yeah, Chris just got overwhelmed by those 1 mana 6/6s.
Yeah, Michael really putting up a good show there. Now we're seeing that as well. We're not only seeing it in standard, but also that I've seen it a little bit in the Hollow One decks as well, putting up a lot of some good results. So interesting to see how players are able to build their decks around these cards. I don't think it's the mainstay card of the deck, but it's this just slots in really nice. This is my early pressure. It needs to be if they're going to use one of the torches early on. Great. That means later on in the game, it's not going to be able to double that to get off one of these Oculuses. We spoke about these decks. We do have sideboards though, and remember this is a time warp match, so we're going to go down to game number 2 as we'll just talk through what the sideboards are for both of these players. Is there any difference? There's a couple of differences here. Okay, so we've got Chandra Spark Hunter, Destroy Evil, Disdainful Stroke, Ghost Vacuum, Lauren. How do you pronounce that one? The Fliggy Sling,
Filigree Silex.
Yeah, look, dyslexia is it's beautiful. No more lies. Shout the ghosts. What do you like out of that lot?
So definitely the ghost vacuums for sure, right? Those are very, very good at preventing, helping hand or something like that. Sheltered by Ghosts seems pretty good because if you can put that on a fear of missing out or a creature that has 3 or more toughness, it's kind of difficult to torch that. There's not a ton of ways to, I guess the Spyglass Siren, but so I think the Sheltereds are good, the Ghost Vacuums, and the Destroy Evil Exercise potentially as well. So a lot of options here for Chris, and same thing with Theo.
So we're going off to the races already. Theo starting how we did the last game with a Mako on the board, and we're able to give it some counters. Both players drawing their memories and getting it on the board nice and early. So we're going to see creatures start getting pumped up even more. Here's a fear of missing out. That's going to get its own counter as well because we did draw an extra card for the turn. Back to Theo.
Yeah, and look at Chris's start. Chris has, the vacuum on 1, has the Profs going with the fear of missing out.
Had.
Well, which one do you kill? Okay.
Yeah, it goes vacuum. That's the plan. The idea is getting this Oculus in. I think we want a graveyard. On the flip side,
kind Kind of depends on
Hmm.
whether or not Theo had sort of like an Oculus and a reanimate spell. But from Chris's side of things, now that Theo has decided to kill the vacuum, you kind of have to assume, like, you kind of know what's coming next turn at that point.
I can't remember the wording on bargain. Can you sacrifice artifacts and enchantments, or is it just
It's
auras?
artifact, it's artifact, token, or enchantment.
So did we sack the ghost vacuum there in response to do the 3 damage? Is that what happened? Or did we let it
No,
resolve?
but we potentially could have.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
I don't know if I saw Chris scry,
That's
but
why
yeah,
as I think of the
if you were
wording, I
gonna
was like,
torch anyways, then
yeah.
yeah.
All right. Theo having a little think. What does he want to do? 3 mana is now, I believe, tapped, but he's in the tank.
I think we're in Chris's combat phase, and think Theo's thinking about deciding whether or not he wants to chump block
Oh,
the fear of missing out. And that play is kind of cool because if Theo has one of the helping hands, you can actually helping hand back the Loran, and then that would take down the fear of missing out.
I like that. Especially these now that the ghost vacuum's gone, and that's going to show what like a key card it was, and exactly the line that you just said there. Nice little 1 mana get our creature back, and of course it's got the ETB destroy target artifact or enchantment, and fear of missing out is an enchantment type creature.
Yeah, and then God, the Steam Core Scholar with Prof's eidetic memory is just so huge. It just when you have that curve and you're able to just play the Scholar, immediately make a 4/4 flyer, vigilance. So now Theo has, and this is why this Oculus deck is so good, is it attacks you from so many different angles. You have the whole profs making your creatures bigger, but you also still have to worry about the Oculus. There's just a lot of it presents a lot of challenging questions to answer for a lot of different decks.
I'm not gonna lie to you, looking at this deck, it does look pretty cool. Maybe I'm
It's
gonna have to
nice.
pick this up a little, play it online a little bit, and see maybe this is going to be the deck Will's going to play next weekend.
Ooh, Chris cycling a Marauding Mako. That is not where you want to be. Although that is
Well,
card number 6 for the Oculus.
I would say there's methods to the madness here. Oculus, remember, and it gets the count as well. So nice 6 power there. That's going to be able to put a stump on the scholar, being able to get in at least at the moment. So that as we pass the turn, we get to pick the top. Look at the top 2. One of them can come into play as a 2/2. It's not morph, is it? What's the mechanic they use on this? This is the
Manifest.
manifest dredge.
3 cards here from Winter Night Stories. That's going to put 3 counters on the Steam Core Scholar. So that Oculus had the ability to block before, but now with 3 additional counters, that is not. I think I saw an exercise 2. Ooh, yeah, this
Oh,
is. Oh,
huge draw there.
God.
Not only having the answer, but also being able to make our creature extremely big. So it's going to be what, a 7 power that could be able to drop Chris down to 10.
Yeah, this is almost a 2-turn clock here, just with the just with the Steam Core Scholar alone.
Do you put it on the scholar though, or do we put it on our ground creature? Yeah,
Yeah,
I quite
I
like
guess I
this.
don't hate that. Yeah, that's fine. Spread the power around a little bit. I was thinking that the Steam Core Scholar couldn't get blocked by the 1/1 token, but I guess if the 2/2, but if the Manifest chump blocks the Lauren, I think you're pretty happy with that too.
All right, Chris draws the cards, shuffles them up, hands go either side of the head. We're in the tank. We're thinking, how can we get out of this? What have I got? What resources can I use to turn this game back around into my favor? Play you out. 3 mana. Okay, we're going to start with our own scholar. Let's draw 2. Discard.
Yeah, best case scenario for Chris, he goes discard an Oculus, maybe reanimate. Oh, there's the
Oh, okay.
Oculus.
All right. All right. Bit cast a lot going on here. We got the reanimate. Don't think we do if hands are going back in there, or heads going back in the hand. Sorry.
Yeah, we can reanimate, put some counters on, I guess probably the manifest, and then the manifest would be a 4/4 that could block the 5/4 Loran, and then you would have, the Steam Core to chump block Theo's Steam Core, but okay.
Oh,
There it
you
is.
called it. You called it. So that's going to come back. Of course, we've drawn the 2. So 2 counters will be going on a creature. Which one it's going to be? Not entirely sure just yet.
I think the manifest. I mean, I guess you could also maybe argue that if you put him on the scholar and Theo can't draw a card, then you could trade scholars, but that's pretty unlikely that Theo can't draw a single card. And now, I mean, I guess it's the same argument where now if Theo puts the counter on the Loran, then you can't trade the manifest for the Loran. but you could just double block the Loran, chump the Scholar, or just take 4 damage as well.
I think I see a fear of missing out. So is this a way to draw a card?
Yeah, we do have the Winter Night Stories in the graveyard too, so that can pump up the Scholar. Oh, wait, can we just do we have lethal? So we go draw 3. That's 7 on the Scholar. If Theo has the Fear of Missing Out plus a kill spell, that's 8 damage with no flying blockers here for Chris.
Drawing a lot of cards.
I don't think Theo has the kill spell.
No, I'm
I do see
looking.
the Fear of Missing Out.
I think that might be a Mako that we drew. Lands. So that's okay. Mako's going to go to the bin. That's fine. 2 mana. Here it's going to be the fear of missing out. Maybe question mark. Yep, here it is. Draw and discard again. Or wrong, discard and draw.
Find a torch. I don't think that was a torch. I think that was another Stories. So it looks like his hand is Helping Hand, Stories, Fear of Missing Out, 2 lands. So you can Helping Hand. Do we have a target for Helping Hand? I can't quite see Theo's graveyard. I mean, we got the Mako, but
I don't think we've got anything not of like high value, so to speak. No, we're just going to get in there, force a chump block from Chris. Then we're going to return. Well, what do we know?
oh,
There was
I
not
didn't
Chris
see the
hiding around there.
Oculus.
Or did I? We're both idiots.
Yeah, I
it's
didn't
fine.
see that.
All right, Chris, really on the back foot, and I don't see many cards to be able to get back into this huge. There's no sweepers in these decks. They don't play them. They rely on the tempo. They rely on the power of Oculus. We do have one for Chris, though. Is that going to be able to get him through and survive another turn? He's at 8 life versus Theo on 15.
Yeah, I mean, I think Theo is just way too far ahead on the battlefield. Something like kill the Steam Core Scholar, flip up Fear of Missing Out under one of the manifests, Delirium. I don't even think he has Delirium, though. I think we only have Creature, Land, Sorcery, so that's not even enough. I guess a kill spell, if it was an instant speed kill spell, would give you the 4th type. So, like, destroy evil on the Scholar, kill that, flip up Fear of Missing Out, double attack with Oculus. That's 10. It's like kind of close, but still not quite all the way there.
Has Chris got 1 or 2 cards in hand?
I believe 1. Because I think
Okay.
I think we went empty-handed last turn. Oh no,
Oh,
I
no,
think maybe it's 2.
What can we have? 2 cards. Okay, well,
Well,
there's an
that is the kill
answer.
spell. Okay, so now we can get at least a free attack with the Oculus.
So that's going to
Okay.
take the fear of missing out.
I mean, Chris is doing a pretty good job of at least managing the battlefield a little bit.
1, 2. Okay, so that's just a bit. As I say, there's no way of us fully pushing Leaf at time. But now that means Chris is empty-handed. Is going to manifest dredge again. So that's number 3 now, hitting the board.
Yeah,
Remember,
does still have the Oculus back on defense. I think, yeah, Theo had that Stories from last turn. So if Theo can cast that, put 3 counters on the Oculus, that would represent a lethal attacker if Theo, again, can find a way to remove the Oculus on Chris's side.
Top 3. Looking for it into the Floodmore. That would be a nice clean answer to get this game done and over with.
Yeah, sheltered if those stayed in, or if additional copies came in, which I think they did.
I see another Oculus in the grip here for Theo. Okay, so they're going to go to the bin. Land drop for turn. I'm not entirely sure we've got a way of actually still not pushing through. It's still going to be. I think Chris might get another turn.
All right, jump block here. And okay, see, that's going to be a bit of a problem for Chris because now that he lost the Oculus, he doesn't have a flying presence on the battlefield anymore. And all of these creatures can just get chump blocked by Theo's manifests.
Yeah, going to be able to manifest 2 when he passes the turn back to Chris. Chris needs a great one off the top. I'm not entirely sure it does. Of course, we also don't know what these manifest creatures are. Like, could these be anything crazy, any sequence that could line up really well?
It's interesting. They could be Fear of Missing Outs, but again, Chris still doesn't have Delirium. We only have Creature, Land, Sorcery. So he would have to draw the 4th type like an instant or somehow get the 4th type in the graveyard. I think drawing an instant's the only way to do that, and then maybe like torch flip up 2 fear of missing outs or something like that, and maybe that can do something. But even then, Theo still has the 5/5 Oculus back to block that can at least block the 4/4 manifest. So I don't think there's a way out for Chris.
No, but we've been saying that for the last few turns, and he's still in this game.
Well,
So
that's true. That
yeah,
is
I
true.
mean, he's definitely trying his best, but always going to be on the back foot. It just seems that Theo was always able to get that extra turn ahead, get that extra threat going, have that answer just in the nick of time that he needed to be able to pull it away with this game. Both players able to have Oculus and do their A game, but it's been that supporting cards, those B games that has got Theo kind of into this position, potentially being able to take this game down and the match.
Draw a card. Lauren's hidden ability. Yeah, I mean, like, look at last turn, for example. Chris had the chump block with his Oculus. That is not a place where you want to be.
Drawing something. It's 3 mana. Okay, so we're going to go 2 deeper.
I mean, look, that with the profs could potentially give Chris Delirium. So discard the 4th type, flip up a FOMO. The way that FOMO works with profs is when you get the second combat phase, you get an additional profs trigger. So
Well, we put it into the graveyard. Looked like we had it in hand. We drew one and we decided to put it in the graveyard to get it.
Yeah, that was the 4th type. The FOMO was the 4th type.
Distribute some counters out. So now we've got a 5/5, a 4/4, and a 2/2/2s. One of them flying with vigilance.
Yeah, and I think Chris is doing that math. I have to imagine one of these manifests is a fear of missing out. But we would flip before attack, so never mind, I lied.
We're attack. It's interesting. We're attacking. I guess we need to end the game. Otherwise, we're just playing not to lose. So turn the 5/5 and the 4/4 sideways.
So this gives us 2 blockers. So unless Chris has a follow-up play, we are dead on the backswing if Theo takes, right? Theo could hypothetically just take 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, go to 6, have attackers here. You get 2 blockers, block the Loran, block the one of the Oculus, and then still take 7, 8, 9, I believe. But Theo's going to trade.
Maybe Chris needed to kind of get a trade out to not get the leaf on the board. But any draw spell here does it for Theo, right? You can have 2 flyers. Chris has only got 1 blocker in the air.
Yeah, and I think Theo still has a fear of missing out from last turn, so that'll put counters on the 5/5 Oculus. But again, Chris could maybe have a Destroy Evil here or some other removal spell on it. Theo picked up a Sheltered by Ghost too. That should probably
That
seal
does it,
up.
right?
Because you could even shelter. Well, I guess the shelter still kind of gets got by Destroy Evil, right? So maybe it's not quite. And I think that's what Theo's thinking about too, is the Destroy Evil.
Yeah, that's what I say. This is where you get to. Even though you've got the cards in hand, it looks like you've got the win. Great players are the ones that work out, well, what ifs? What if they have X? What if they have Z? And it looks like Chris is going to say, it does have to Destroy Evil, and we played it on the big Oculus there. That's huge. It's going to flip.
Oh, but it doesn't matter.
Yeah, here's the fear of missing out. So no matter if that last card is your best card, you're still going to have all of these and able to take this one down. Theo's just going to talk him through the lines. Theo being able to take this game and match down in phenomenal fashion there. There's the handshake. Congratulations to him. So a lot of the better players in the room, the leaderboard points are changing around. People are going to be swapping different positions there. So huge shout out to them. I'm being told we're going to go to a break, and when we come back, we're going to have round for you momentarily. So don't go anywhere. We'll see you shortly.